Pimple patches. I need to use different types before and after extracting acne,
Find out how to properly use a pimple patch
and which pimple patch works for each skin type through a blind test.
on Do and Don't. Hi, Wishtrenders!
Hello, Maddie!
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Are you doing well?
I'm excited.
Because
We're gonna tell our Wishtrenders everything about pimple patches. It's a must-have item for people with acne, right?
So today on Do and Don't, we're going to teach you guys how to properly use pimple patches and which pimple patches to use even under makeup. Also, in today's video, we're going to do a blind test to test the transparency and thickness of different pimple patches, so stay tuned till the end of the video.
Make sure to subscribe and like this video and leave some comments if you think that there are some points that we didn't cover today.
Pimple patches are products made to care for the acne, so all pimple patches contain ingredients that care for the acne and also protect the skin. And since you have to actually put them on your face to make them work, recently they're getting much more transparent and thinner.
So we are going to talk about how to use them properly and share the results from different tests that we're going to do. The test will help you choose the right pimple patch for you according to your skin type and skincare routine.
Then let's get started!
Do. Which pimple patch to use before and after extraction? So before you use a pimple patch, we first need to know what they do, right?
Pimple patches work for the spot area of your acne, but all pimple patches have different ways to use them and different effects, so you have to check beforehand. But one thing that goes in common for all pimple patches is that they are much more effective when applied on dry skin, so keep that in mind.
You can divide pimple patches into two categories. One of them is the hydrocolloid type, which is used after extracting acne, and the second one is the antibacterial anti-inflammatory type, which is used before extracting acne.
You can think of hydrocolloid pimple patches as the normal dressing we would use on our wounds to regenerate the skin. Hydrocolloid pimple patches keep the area in a moist, insulated environment and absorb the fluid from the wound so it heals faster. It also stops you from touching the wound with your hands so it can prevent any secondary infections.
However, you need to apply hydrocolloid patches after you extract the acne, and the reason is that the bacteria inside the acne is anaerobic, which means that it reproduces when it is blocked from the air.
That's right. This is why if you apply a hydrocolloid pimple patch before you extract your pimple, it's actually going to cause the acne bacteria to spread.
So just basically remember that hydrocolloid patches are for after the extraction.
Okay, so then, what do the pimple patches you use before extraction do?
Pimple patches used before extraction usually contain ingredients that help for calming the skin and relieving acne. So it keeps your acne from getting worse and helps calm it down.
If the pimple patches we use before and after extraction do very different things, how can we tell them apart?
The pimple patches you use after extractions usually have hydrocolloid in the ingredients, so make sure you check the product's label.
Do. Thin and invisible pimple patches. We're going to do a blind test to find the perfect pimple patch for the Wishtrenders who wear a lot of makeup, like me, or people who just want to make it not too obvious that they have a pimple patch on their face. We're going to compare some basic pimple patches along with the new and improved ones that stand out.
But just so you know, they're all hydrocolloid patches.
So first, let's test the thickness of each product.
So hydrocolloid products need to create a moist environment to absorb the fluid, so they're usually on the thicker side. But recently, there are a lot of products that are out there that are very thin and are still good at absorbing impurities.
And I think that most people would prefer a pimple patch that isn't too obvious, especially if you wear makeup. So what do you have to look for in a pimple patch if you want one that doesn't show on the skin?
These days, not only are there pimple patches that are more transparent, they are more breathable as well, making them easier on your skin. There are also products that you can't even see with a little distance. Do. Pimple patches for calming acne.
There are probably Wishtrenders out there whose number one priority is to calm the acne down. Like, sure, thickness and transparency is important, but what if you just need a pimple patch that's going to calm down your acne and absorb the fluids effectively? Pay attention to the patches we're going to test out right now.
But like we said before, you need to know that there are different ways of using those pimple patches. So let's get started.
First, let's look at the size and shapes of the patches. Acne appears in all different shapes and sizes in different areas, so pimple patches also come in different shapes and sizes too. I personally found oval-shaped pimple patches useful for the chin area.
Also, Iris, I don't know if you've seen them, but there are a lot of trending pimple patches these days, especially on YouTube. Those ones with the needles, like they're very trendy these days. Needle patches usually have spiky bumps, so unlike regular pimple patches, these bumps help control sebum production and provide the skin with effective ingredients for acne care.
Because of the spiky bumps that needle patches have, they have an extracting effect and also help for sebum care. And they're usually hydrocolloid type patches, so they calm the skin and also absorb any sebum or impurities too.
So we found out about all of these different pimple patches, right? But there's one more thing that we need to dive into. Are you using them the right way?
Don't. When applying pimple patches with your hands.
So we usually apply pimple patches with our hands, right? So it's important to know how to do it so that you don't get the adhesive part contaminated. When you peel the pimple patch off of the film, you have to make sure your hands don't touch the adhesive side. Don't think you can do that? Try using a pair of tweezers instead.
Don't. Do I leave the pimple patch on? In the case of hydrocolloid patches, change it to a new one when it turns white. You might be thinking, the longer on the skin, isn't it the better? But when it gets to the point where it starts leaking, change the patch to a new one.
So for hydrocolloid patches, of course it depends on how your wound looks, but it is usually recommended to care for the wound for consecutively maybe 2 to 3 days. And for needle hydrocolloid patches, it's usually recommended to leave them on for at least 2 hours.
There's another thing you need to remember about hydrocolloid patches. Since acne bacteria spreads faster in a sealed environment, the acne must be extracted in a sanitary way, then disinfected. Then the patch has to be applied onto dry skin.
Also, for pimple patches used before extractions, you can leave them on up to 8 to 12 hours, but it is recommended to not use them on the same area too much. So pimple patches used before extractions can have a lot of ingredients that can be beneficial for your skin, but if you leave them on for too long, the opposite can occur and it can be irritating.
Alright, so on today's Do and Don't, we told you guys everything you need to know about pimple patches. Did you think it was helpful?
And if you think that there are pimple patches that we did not cover that you would like to share with other fellow Wishtrenders, leave some comments below and then we can all learn more about it.
Yeah. All the products we mentioned in the video today will be in the description below, so go check it out.
And don't you dare leave this video without hitting the subscribe button and the like button and leave many comments for us.
Yep. Then we'll see you guys next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.